What if the greatest secret to transforming your life was not effort, not struggle, but a simple inner decision? A decision to move through life with the quiet certainty that everything is always working out for you. Most people wake up each day expecting problems. They anticipate delays, disappointments, and obstacles before the day has even begun. And without realizing it, they are silently preparing the conditions that later appear in their world. But imagine living differently. Imagine waking up with the calm inner, knowing that no matter what happens, somehow, some way, life will arrange itself in your favor. That every situation, every encounter, every unexpected turn will ultimately lead you to something better. When you adopt this attitude, something remarkable begins to happen. Your mind becomes peaceful. Your reactions change. Your choices become clearer. And gradually, the outer world starts to reflect this inner confidence. You are no longer moving through life as someone hoping things might work out. You begin moving as someone who knows they will. And the world responds to that certainty. Tonight, we explore the profound power of living from this assumption, acting as if everything always works out for you, and how this simple inner shift can begin reshaping the events of your life in ways you never expected. Every experience in life begins long before it appears in the physical world. It begins within the quiet, unseen realm of your own consciousness. What you consistently assume to be true about your life slowly hardens into fact. The circumstances you face, the opportunities you encounter, and even the people who enter your world are often reflections of the inner states you have accepted as normal. This is why the most powerful shift you can make is not in your environment, but in your assumption about how life works for you. When you begin to act as if everything always works out for you, you are not merely hoping for good fortune. You are choosing a state of being that shapes reality itself. Most people move through life with an unconscious expectation that things will go wrong. They expect delays, rejection, problems, or disappointment. These expectations are often subtle and deeply rooted, formed through years of past experiences, and the stories society constantly repeats. Because these assumptions lie quietly in the background of the mind, people rarely question them. They simply accept them as the way life is. But life is not fixed in that way. The outer world is more flexible and responsive than it appears. It reflects the inner atmosphere you carry within yourself. When a person repeatedly assumes that things are difficult, life tends to confirm that belief. Challenges appear more often, obstacles seem larger, and opportunities feel scarce. But the reason is not that life is unfair. It is that the mind has already prepared the pattern that reality follows. Consciousness is creative. It continually projects its assumptions outward, shaping the conditions that appear in everyday life. Now imagine adopting a completely different assumption. Imagine quietly deciding that things always work out for you. Not sometimes. Not only when circumstances look good, but always. This assumption does not need to be loud or dramatic. It can exist as a calm inner certainty that accompanies you throughout the day. When challenges arise, instead of immediately reacting with worry, you remind yourself that somehow this situation will turn in your favor. Even if you cannot yet see how, you hold the feeling that the outcome is already aligned with your good. This inner shift changes the way you experience life. You begin to approach situations with more confidence and calmness. You become less reactive and more receptive. Because you expect solutions, your mind becomes more open to noticing them. Opportunities that once seemed invisible suddenly appear. People respond to your energy differently. Even situations that initially seem negative often lead to unexpected advantages. The key is persistence in the assumption. Reality rarely changes in a single moment because old patterns of thinking may still linger in the mind. But when you consistently return to the belief that everything works out for you, the new assumption begins to replace the old one. Over time, this new state becomes natural. It no longer feels like something you are trying to practice. It becomes the way you genuinely see life. When this happens, something remarkable occurs. Events start aligning in ways that seem almost too perfect to be coincidence. Problems resolve themselves in unexpected ways. Helpful people appear at the right moment. What once felt like struggle begins to feel like flow. From the outside, others may call it luck. They may say you are fortunate or blessed, but in truth, what they are witnessing is the power of a sustained inner assumption. The world is not merely happening to you. It is responding to the state you occupy within. Every assumption you hold acts like a quiet command to life itself, instructing it how to arrange the circumstances around you. If you assume life is difficult, it obeys. If you assume life supports you, it obeys just as faithfully. So the invitation is simple. Begin carrying the assumption that everything always works out for you. Hold it gently, but consistently. Let it influence the way you think, the way you react, and the way you move through your day. Even when you cannot yet see the evidence, remain loyal to the feeling that life is arranging itself in your favor. Because the moment that assumption becomes your natural state, the world will gradually begin to reflect it back to you. One of the most powerful shifts a person can make in their life is learning to live from the end rather than constantly living in the struggle of the middle. Most people approach their desires from a place of lack. They want success, so they think about not having success. They want abundance, so they focus on the absence of it. They want peace, yet their minds remain occupied with worry about how and when things will change. Without realizing it, they are mentally living in the problem rather than in the solution. To live from the end means something entirely different. It means mentally placing yourself in the position of the person whose desire has already been fulfilled. Instead of constantly thinking about the path, the obstacles, or the time it might take, you quietly accept the feeling that the outcome is already yours. This is not pretending in a childish way. It is a deliberate shift in consciousness. It is choosing to occupy the mental state of the fulfilled desire before it physically appears. Imagine for a moment that everything you are hoping for has already happened. The goal you seek has already been reached. The opportunity you desire has already arrived. The life you wish to live is already your present reality. How would you think? How would you speak? How would you carry yourself through the day? These questions reveal the essence of living from the end. It is about adopting the inner attitude of the person you would become once your desire is fulfilled. When you begin to think and feel from that place, something subtle yet powerful occurs within you. Your energy shifts. The anxiety about how things will happen begins to fade. The mind becomes calmer because it is no longer chasing an uncertain future. Instead, it rests in the quiet certainty that the outcome is already decided. This sense of inner completion influences the way you move through life. Your decisions become clearer, your reactions more balanced, and your presence more confident. Many people believe that results come only from constant effort and struggle. But there is a deeper principle at work in life. When you mentally live in the end of your desire, you are aligning yourself with the version of reality where that outcome already exists. Your actions, thoughts, and perceptions begin to naturally guide you toward experiences that confirm that state. Opportunities appear, ideas arise, and circumstances shift in ways that support the end you have accepted. The important part of this practice is releasing the need to control every step of the journey. The mind often wants to know exactly how something will happen and when it will appear. But living from the end requires a different approach. Instead of forcing the path, you trust that the path will reveal itself naturally. Your role is not to push reality into shape, but to remain faithful to the feeling of the fulfilled desire. Consider how different your life would feel if you truly believed that everything was already working out. Instead of worrying about future outcomes, You would move through the day with a quiet sense of assurance. Challenges would not disturb you as easily, because you would know they are temporary steps along the way. Even uncertainty would lose much of its power, because your inner state would remain anchored in the final result. This way of thinking gradually changes your relationship with life itself. You stop reacting to every small circumstance as if it determines your destiny. Instead, you recognize that the deeper state you hold within is the true cause of what unfolds around you. When the inner state is one of fulfillment, the outer world eventually mirrors that fulfillment. Living from the end is not about ignoring reality. It is about understanding that reality is constantly being shaped by the consciousness behind it. The moment you consistently occupy the state of the fulfilled desire, you begin to move in harmony with the version of life where that desire is already realized. So instead of asking, "How will this happen?" begin asking a different question. What would it feel like if it were already done? Let that feeling guide your thoughts and your daily attitude. Return to it whenever doubt appears. Allow it to become familiar, natural, and steady within you. Because the moment you truly live from the end, life begins quietly arranging the middle. Every moment of the day, whether you realize it or not, a conversation is taking place within your mind. It is quiet, often unnoticed, are yet incredibly powerful. These inner conversations shape the way you see the world, the way you respond to situations, and ultimately the experiences that begin to appear in your life. Long before any event becomes visible in the outer world, it is often rehearsed many times in the theater of the mind. The thoughts you repeat, the words you silently say to yourself, and the stories you tell within become the foundation from which your reality is built. Most people allow their inner dialogue to run automatically. When something goes wrong, the mind quickly begins repeating phrases of worry or doubt. It might say, "Why does this always happen to me?" Or, "Things never seem to work out." These statements may seem harmless because they are spoken only within the mind, but they carry a powerful creative influence. Every repeated thought strengthens a certain expectation about life. And over time, those expectations begin to materialize as circumstances. If the mind continually rehearses failure, disappointment, or fear, it gradually builds a mental environment where those experiences feel normal. The outer world then begins to reflect that environment. Situations appear that confirm the inner story, reinforcing the belief that life is difficult or unpredictable. In truth, it is not simply fate at work. It is the quiet repetition of inner conversations shaping the lens through which reality unfolds. But this same principle can work in a completely different direction. The moment you become aware of the conversations happening inside your mind, you gain the power to guide them. Instead of allowing your thoughts to wander into worry or negativity, you can gently redirect them toward a more empowering message. You can begin telling yourself a different story, one in which life consistently moves in your favor. Imagine replacing the usual internal dialogue with a calm and steady affirmation. "Everything always works out for me." At first, the mind may resist this idea, especially if past experiences have conditioned it to expect the opposite. Yet persistence is the key. Each time you repeat this new conversation, you plant a seed within consciousness. Over time, the repetition begins to feel more natural. The statement moves from being something you are trying to believe to something you quietly know. This shift in inner dialogue gradually transforms your emotional state. Instead of feeling anxious about future events, you begin to experience a sense of trust and ease. The mind becomes less reactive because it is no longer constantly preparing for the worst. It begins expecting solutions rather than problems. This subtle change affects how you interpret situations and how you interact with the world around you. Your inner conversations also influence how others respond to you. People often sense the energy and expectations you carry, even if nothing is spoken aloud. When your inner dialogue is filled with confidence and positive expectation, it naturally reflects in your tone, your body language, and your presence. Others may find themselves responding more favorably, offering help or presenting opportunities that might not have appeared before. The practice of guiding your inner conversation requires awareness and patience. There will be moments when the mind slips back into old patterns of doubt or fear. When this happens, there is no need for frustration. Simply notice the thought and gently replace it with the new assumption. Over time, the new pattern grows stronger while the old one fades. Think of your inner dialogue as a constant instruction to life itself. Each thought is like a quiet command telling reality what kind of experiences to bring forward. If the command is filled with worry, life responds with situations that mirror that feeling. But if the command carries certainty and trust, life begins arranging events that reflect those qualities instead. When you consistently maintain the inner conversation that everything works out for you, you begin living in a mental environment of possibility and calm assurance. This environment becomes the foundation from which your outer experiences grow. Gradually, you may notice that situations resolve more smoothly, helpful coincidences appear more often, and challenges turn into unexpected advantages. The world outside is constantly echoing the world within. By choosing your inner conversations carefully, you begin guiding that echo toward the life you truly wish to experience. One of the greatest tests of inner mastery comes when circumstances appear to contradict what you believe. It is easy to feel confident when everything seems to be going your way. When opportunities appear effortlessly and life flows smoothly, faith feels natural. But the real power of belief reveals itself when the outer world temporarily shows something different. In those moments, the question arises, will you trust what you have assumed within, or will you surrender your belief to what your senses report? Most people rely entirely on visible evidence before they allow themselves to believe something. They wait for signs, results, or confirmation from the outside world before feeling secure. Yet by the time the evidence appears, the inner belief that created it has already existed for some time. In other words, the visible world is always a delayed reflection of the invisible state within consciousness. This means that if you depend on external proof before believing, you will always remain one step behind the creative process. Faith without visible evidence means choosing to remain loyal to your inner assumption, even when circumstances appear uncertain. It is the quiet decision to trust that life is arranging events in your favor, regardless of what the present moment seems to show. This kind of faith does not deny challenges or pretend they do not exist. Instead, it recognizes that current conditions are temporary and do not have the final authority over your future. Imagine planting a seed in the soil. The moment the seed is placed in the ground, the process of growth begins. Yet for a period of time, nothing appears on the surface. If someone were to judge the seed only by what they could see, they might assume nothing is happening. But beneath the surface, life is already unfolding. Roots are forming, energy is gathering, and the plant is preparing to emerge. The same principle applies to the assumptions you plant within your mind. When you assume that everything works out for you, that belief becomes like a seed in consciousness. At first, there may be no immediate evidence in the outer world. Circumstances may still look the same as they did before. But beneath the surface of events, subtle shifts are beginning to take place. New connections are forming, unseen influences are moving, and possibilities are quietly aligning with the state you have accepted. The challenge is maintaining faith during this unseen stage. The mind often becomes impatient, questioning whether the assumption is truly working. Doubt may arise, suggesting that the old way of thinking was more realistic. Yet each time you return to your chosen belief, you strengthen the seed you planted. Your persistence becomes the nourishment that allows it to grow. This kind of faith creates a powerful inner stability. Instead of reacting to every change in circumstances, you develop a calm confidence that the outcome is already unfolding in your favor. When difficulties arise, you no longer interpret them as signs of failure. Instead, you see them as temporary movements along a path that ultimately leads to a positive result. People who possess this quiet faith often appear unusually calm in situations that might worry others. They are not ignoring reality. They simply understand that the present moment does not define the final outcome. Their confidence allows them to move through challenges with clarity and patience, trusting that the larger pattern of events is still working on their behalf. Over time, this unwavering belief begins to produce visible results. Situations that once seemed complicated start resolving themselves. Unexpected opportunities appear, sometimes in ways that feel almost miraculous. When these moments arrive, they may seem sudden, but in truth, they are the natural outcome of a faith that remained steady long before the evidence appeared. Faith without visible evidence is therefore not blind optimism. It is a deep understanding that the creative power of consciousness operates beyond what the senses can immediately detect. By remaining loyal to your inner assumption, you allow that power to unfold its work in the unseen dimensions of life. And when the evidence finally does appear, it simply confirms what you already knew within, that everything was working out all along. The transformation of a person's life rarely happens because of a single thought. It happens because of a repeated pattern of thinking that gradually becomes a habit. The mind is shaped by what it consistently returns to. If it constantly expects problems, it begins to see life through the lens of difficulty. But when it repeatedly expects things to work out, it develops a completely different outlook. Over time, this expectation becomes natural, and life itself begins to reflect that new state of mind. Many people have unknowingly developed the habit of expecting the worst. Before an important event, they imagine what might go wrong. When starting something new, they worry about failure. Even when things are going well, they sometimes anticipate that something negative will soon appear. This pattern does not arise because they want difficulty. It develops simply because the mind has practiced those thoughts for a long time. The more often a certain expectation is repeated, the more real it begins to feel. Yet the same mental process that creates negative expectations can also create powerful positive ones. When you begin practicing the assumption that everything works out for you, you are slowly forming a new habit of thought. At first, it may feel unfamiliar. The mind might question it, comparing it to past experiences that seemed uncertain or challenging. But every time you return to the belief that life is working in your favor, you strengthen that new pattern. The habit of expecting good things changes the way you interpret events. When something unexpected happens, instead of immediately assuming it is a problem, you begin to wonder how it might lead to something beneficial. Your perspective shifts from fear to curiosity. Instead of reacting with tension, you remain open to the possibility that the situation may contain an advantage you have not yet seen. This mental shift has a powerful effect on your emotions and your actions. When you expect good outcomes, your mind naturally becomes calmer. Stress begins to decrease because you no longer feel as though life is constantly working against you. You move through situations with more patience and clarity, allowing you to make wiser decisions. Often, the solutions that once seemed difficult to find become much easier to recognize. Another remarkable aspect of this habit is how it influences the people and opportunities around you. When someone carries a quiet expectation that life will support them, they project a sense of confidence and ease. Others often respond positively to that energy. Conversations flow more naturally, cooperation becomes easier, and new possibilities begin to appear. What might look like luck from the outside is often the natural result of a mindset that consistently expects favorable outcomes. Developing the habit of expecting good does not mean believing that every moment will be perfect or that challenges will never arise. Life will always contain moments of uncertainty and change. The difference lies in how you interpret those moments. Instead of seeing them as signs that things are going wrong, you begin to see them as temporary steps that are leading toward a better result. This perspective allows you to remain steady even when circumstances seem unclear. Like any habit, this one strengthens through repetition. Each time you choose to believe that things will work out, you reinforce that expectation within your mind. Each time you respond to a situation with trust instead of fear, you make the new pattern more natural. Gradually, the belief that life supports you becomes part of your identity. You no longer have to remind yourself constantly. It simply becomes the way you see the world. As this habit deepens, you may begin noticing subtle changes in your life. Situations that once caused worry may resolve more smoothly. Opportunities may appear at the right moment, sometimes in ways you could not have planned. Even challenges may reveal hidden advantages that lead you towards something better than you originally expected. The true power of this habit lies in its consistency. When you repeatedly expect good outcomes, you create an inner environment where positive experiences can easily grow. Your mind becomes a place of possibility rather than fear. And from that place, life begins to unfold with a greater sense of harmony and opportunity. Eventually, the assumption that everything works out for you is no longer just an idea. It becomes the quiet foundation of how you experience the world. The truth is simple, yet deeply transformative. Life is constantly responding to the state you accept within yourself. If you move through the world expecting struggle, life often mirrors that expectation. But when you quietly assume that things are always unfolding in your favor, you begin to walk a very different path. You stop reacting with fear. You stop imagining the worst. And you start allowing life to reveal possibilities you could never have forced through effort alone. Acting as if everything works out for you is not blind optimism. It is a decision to trust the deeper creative power within consciousness itself. It is choosing the state of the person whose life naturally unfolds with solutions, opportunities, and fortunate outcomes. And the more faithfully you remain in that state, the more the world around you reorganizes to confirm it. So from this moment forward, carry this quiet assumption with you: everything is working out. Even when the path is unclear, even when circumstances seem uncertain, because the moment you accept that truth within yourself, the unseen forces of life begin arranging events to prove it. Thank you for spending this time with me and sharing in this message. If these words resonated with you, take a moment to reflect on them and carry the feeling with you throughout your day. And if you enjoyed this message, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who may need this reminder today. Your support helps this message reach more people who are ready to transform their thinking and their lives. Until next time, remember, move through life with the quiet confidence that everything is always working out for you, and watch how reality begins to reflect that belief.